want to tell you a story. Not a story from a book, not a made-up drama, but a story that tore my life apart and somehow rebuilt me stronger than I ever thought I could be. It begins in a place you would least expect. A wedding hall, full of flowers, laughter, and the sound of violins playing in the background. But here's the twist. The groom standing at the altar was my husband. And the bride, the woman holding his hand with a smug little smile, was my younger sister. People gasped, whispering to each other, eyes darting back and forth between me and them. And there I sat, heart racing, fists clenched, tears threatening to spill. She smirked at me, her lips moving just enough for me to read them. "You're replaced." I could have collapsed right there. But instead I took a deep breath. Because what she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I wasn't here to mourn. I was here to reveal something that would change everything. But to understand how I got to that moment, you need to know where it all began. Because stories like these don't just happen in one night. They build slowly, like a crack in glass, spreading until the whole thing shatters. 5 years ago, if you had asked me about my life, I would have told you I was the luckiest woman alive. I had married David, tall, charming, hardworking. He wasn't perfect, but he made me laugh when I cried, and he held my hand like it was the safest place in the world. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. He had a stable job at a construction company, and I managed a small art studio where I taught kids to paint. Our home wasn't a mansion, just a cozy little house with white curtains and a backyard where I planted roses. But it was ours. And then there was my family. I was the older sister, the responsible one. And then there was Emily, my younger sister. Emily was everything I wasn't. Bold, carefree, magnetic. She had a way of walking into a room and making every head turn. Where I was grounded and cautious, she was adventurous, living on impulse. I loved her. I really did. I covered for her when she made mistakes, helped her with money when she overspent, and gave her advice she never listened to. But still, she was my sister. And family is family, right? If only I had known. Red flags I ignored. It started with little things. Emily would come over more often than usual, hanging around the house when David was home. At first, I thought nothing of it. Why wouldn't she? We were family. She'd laugh at his jokes a little too long, touch his arm a little too casually. I brushed it off. She's just playful, I told myself. She doesn't mean anything by it. Sometimes I'd catch her borrowing clothes she hadn't asked for, or making snide little remarks about how lucky I was to have him. I rolled my eyes, thinking it was just her way. She had always been a bit jealous of me growing up, jealous of my grades, my steadiness, my ability to have it together. But I didn't see it then. I didn't see the danger growing right inside my own home. Then came the shift. David started working late. Or so he said. He stopped looking me in the eye when he came home. Our dinners grew quieter, the laughter fading into silence. One night, I made his favorite meal, lasagna with extra cheese. He barely touched it. Instead, he stared at his phone, smiling at something I wasn't allowed to see. "Who's that?" I asked lightly, pretending it didn't matter. "Just work," he muttered, locking the screen quickly. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But deep down, a storm was brewing, the doubt that eats you. Alive, if you've ever been in love, you know this part. The moment you start questioning yourself. Am I not enough anymore? Am I too old? Too boring? Too predictable? I stared at myself in the mirror one night, touching the lines on my face, the ones Emily didn't have yet. She was 29. I was 41. Was that it? Was youth all it took to erase years of love? Still, I told myself I was paranoid. That's what love does. It blinds you, convinces you to silence your instincts. But instincts don't lie. One rainy Thursday evening, my world cracked open. I was cleaning the house when I noticed David's jacket tossed carelessly on the couch. His phone buzzed in the pocket. I shouldn't have looked. I know that. But my hands moved before my mind could stop them. And there it was. Message after message, her name lighting up the screen. Emily flirty texts, pictures, promises. I can't wait till we don't have to hide anymore. I love you more than her. My chest tightened, air leaving my lungs. It wasn't just an affair. It was betrayal of the cruelest kind. My husband, my sister, the two people who should have loved me the most. Loving each other behind my back. I dropped the phone, sat on the floor, and for the first time in my life, I felt like nothing. Like I could disappear, and the world would go on just fine without me. But little did they know. I wasn't going to stay down forever. I wish I could tell you I confronted them immediately, that I screamed, threw the phone at the wall, demanded answers. But I didn't. Instead, I sat there, shaking, scrolling through their messages, my tears smudging the screen. I wanted to vomit. My body felt hollow, like all the bones had been pulled from it. But my mind was racing. Every late night, every excuse, every smirk Emily had given me. It all connected like pieces of a cruel puzzle. When David came home that night, I didn't ask questions. I didn't even greet him. I just sat on the couch, the phone in my hand, the messages open. He froze in the doorway when he saw it. I remember my voice. It wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. It was calm, too calm. Do you want to tell me how long it's been going on? His face drained of color. He stammered. I don't... It's not what it looks like. Don't insult me, I snapped, my calm cracking for the first time. Don't you dare insult me by lying, and then the words I'll never forget. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for you to find out this way. That was it. No denial, no fight for me. Just an apology that tasted like poison. And worse, he added quietly. I love her. Her. My sister. If heartbreak had a sound, it would have been the silence that followed. I didn't scream. I didn't cry in front of him. I just walked past him and locked myself in our bedroom. For 3 days, I barely ate. I barely slept. I replayed every moment of our marriage, every smile, every kiss, wondering how much of it had been a lie. Emily didn't call. Of course she didn't. She wasn't ashamed. She wasn't hiding. Because people like her don't think they do wrong. They think they deserve what they want. Weeks passed. I moved into the guest room. David slept on the couch. We lived like strangers under one roof, and then the announcement came. Not from David, not from Emily, but from my mother. Sweetheart, she said over tea one afternoon, her voice hesitant. I need to tell you something before you hear it from someone else. I knew. Before she even said it, I knew. They're engaged, she whispered. The cup slipped from my hand and shattered on the floor. Engaged. Not only had they betrayed me, they wanted to celebrate it, my husband, my sister. At the altar, in front of family, friends, neighbors, turning my humiliation into a wedding spectacle. When I confronted my mother, she didn't know where to look. They love each other, dear. Maybe it's fate? Fate. That word cut deeper than any knife. The family that should have been rallying behind me was bending to accept the betrayal. To normalize it. Don't make a scene, my father said, frowning when I refused to attend the engagement dinner. Emily deserves to be happy too. Happy, at my expense. With my life. With my husband. I realized then. I wasn't just fighting David and Emily. I was fighting the silence, the acceptance. The cowardice of everyone else. I won't lie to you. There was a night I thought about ending it all. The pain was too much. The whispers in my head too loud. You're not enough. You're old. You're forgotten. You're discarded. I sat on the bathroom floor staring at the razor in my hand, tears streaming down my face. But then, I remembered something. Something Emily had said years ago when we were teenagers. She'd stolen a necklace of mine. Wore it to school, and when I asked her why, she smirked and said, because you never fight back. That's why people take from you. You let them. Those words came back like lightning in my veins. Not this time. Not anymore. I put the razor down, and I made myself a promise. If they wanted a wedding, I would give them one. But it wouldn't be the fairy tale they imagined. I didn't rush. I didn't scream. I didn't even let them know I cared. Instead, I started to watch. To listen. David was sloppy. He left receipts, emails, notes. Emily was careless, too, bragging to her friends, posting subtle hints online. And me? I collected everything. Texts, pictures, bank statements, proof of lies, proof of debt, proof of secrets they thought no one knew. Piece by piece, I built a story, not the one they were telling the world, but the truth. When the wedding invitation arrived, I stared at it for a long time. It was beautiful, embossed lettering, white roses printed along the edges. Emily and David, together forever. The irony almost made me laugh. I didn't RSVP. I didn't tell them if I would come. I let them wonder, but inside I knew I would be there. Not as the broken, discarded woman they thought I was, but as the storm they never saw coming. The weeks leading to the wedding were suffocating. Relatives whispered behind my back. Some pitied me, some judged me, some avoided me altogether. I walked through it all with my head high, because I had something none of them had: the truth. And when the day came, I slipped into a red dress, bold, fiery, the color of anger and rebirth. When I walked into that hall, every head turned. Not because I was the bride, but because I carried myself like one. Strong, beautiful, untouchable. And when Emily saw me, standing at the altar with my husband, she smirked. A smirk that said, I won. You lost, but she had no idea. She had no idea what I was about to reveal. The wedding hall smelled of roses and champagne. Golden chandeliers dripped from the ceiling, sparkling like stars. Every seat was filled. Every eye was on them. David stood at the altar in his black tuxedo, his jaw tight, but his hand steady as he held Emily's, and Emily, oh, she was glowing. Dressed in her modern white outfit, crop top and short skirt, a jeweled veil pinned in her perfect hair. She smiled like a queen who had conquered her kingdom. But when her eyes found me sitting in the third row, she tilted her head, lips curving into that same smirk I had seen 100 times before. You're replaced, her eyes said. My chest tightened, but I didn't look away. I let her see the fire in me, the calm fury of a woman who had nothing left to lose. The ceremony began. The pastor spoke of love, of loyalty, of two souls becoming one. The words almost made me laugh. If loyalty had been in this room, I wouldn't be sitting here in a red dress watching my husband marry my sister. When it was Emily's turn to say her vows, she leaned closer to David, voice dripping with sweetness. You were always the one I was meant to be with. Even when the world didn't understand, we knew. And today nothing and no one can stand between us. Her eyes flicked toward me for just a second, a dagger disguised as a glance. The guests murmured, some smiling, some whispering, and then the pastor turned to David. Do you, David, take Emily to be your lawfully wedded wife? He opened his mouth, and that was when I stood up. Before you answer that, I said, my voice ringing louder than I expected. The hall went silent. Every head snapped toward me. David's face went pale. Emily's smirk faltered. I stepped forward, heels clicking against the marble floor, every step deliberate, every breath steady. I think the bride, and everyone here, deserves to know a few things first. Sit down, Mary, Emily hissed, her smile cracking. But I didn't. I reached into my purse and pulled out a neat stack of papers. These, I said, holding them up, are the receipts. The late-night hotel rooms David paid for while he was still married to me. Not just with Emily, but with others, too. Gasps filled the room. I tossed the papers onto a table near the front row. Guests craned their necks, eyes widening as they skimmed them. Emily's face flushed red. You're lying, she spat. Oh, really? I smiled coldly. Because here's the text you sent him, Emily, remember? The one where you said, I don't care if she finds out. Just make sure she keeps paying your credit card bills until the divorce is final. A murmur spread through the crowd like fire. Emily staggered back, her perfect posture collapsing. David's jaw clenched, sweat beading at his temple. But I wasn't finished. I turned to the guests, family, friends, neighbors. While they were sneaking around behind my back, I was the one paying off David's debts. Thousands of dollars he never told anyone about. And Emily, she wasn't just betraying me. She was using me, asking for money, claiming she needed help, while laughing at me with him. I let the words hang heavy in the air. The hall was a storm of whispers now. Guests shifting uncomfortably, some glaring at Emily, others at David. Emily's hands trembled as she reached for David's arm. "Don't listen to her, she's just bitter." But David pulled away, his face hard. "Emily, is it true?" Her eyes widened. For the first time, the smug confidence cracked. No, she's twisting it, but it was too late. The truth was already out, laid bare like broken glass. I could have stopped there. I could have left them drowning in humiliation, their wedding destroyed before it began. But no. I had something more. I straightened my shoulders, my voice clear and steady. "Here's the difference between us, Emily. You thought you broke me. You thought taking him would take everything from me. But while you two were lying and stealing, I rebuilt my life." I turned to the crowd, my voice carrying like a sermon. I started over. I got my own apartment. I expanded my art studio. I paid off every debt, not his, mine. I stood back up on my own 2 feet. And guess what? I am happier, freer, and stronger than I have ever been. I looked Emily dead in the eyes. "You didn't replace me. You freed me." Gasps turned into applause from somewhere in the back. Someone whispered, "Good for her." Emily's face was frozen, her mouth opening and closing with no words coming out. David just looked down, shame burning in his eyes. I dropped the final bomb before turning away. "Oh, and one last thing," I said, my tone sharp as glass. "Marriage built on betrayal doesn't last, so enjoy it while it does." With that, I turned, lifted my chin, and walked out of that hall. My heels echoed against the marble like war drums, and though my hands were trembling, my heart felt lighter than it had in years. I wasn't walking out as the discarded wife. I was walking out as a woman reborn. Later, when I lay in bed that night, I thought about everything, the pain, the betrayal, the humiliation, but also the strength. Because here's the truth. Sometimes, the worst betrayal isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of the part where you rise. Emily thought she replaced me. David thought he found better. But what they really did was push me toward the life I deserved all along. And if you're listening to this, maybe you've been betrayed too. Maybe you've been discarded, abandoned, humiliated. But let me tell you something from the deepest part of my soul. You are not replaceable. You are not disposable. And sometimes, being left behind is the greatest gift life can give you, because it means the people who never deserved you are finally out of your way. And the path ahead? That belongs only to you. It's been 2 years since that wedding. David and Emily? They didn't last. 6 months in, the cracks showed. A year later, he walked out on her too. For someone younger. As for me, I'm thriving. My art studio is booming, filled with light, laughter, and children painting their dreams. I've traveled places I never thought I'd see. And yes, I've even opened my heart again to someone who treats me the way I always deserved. But here's the thing. Even if love never came again, I would still be whole. Because I learned that wholeness doesn't come from someone standing beside you. It comes from standing strong within yourself. So if you ever find yourself sitting in the ashes of betrayal, remember my story. Remember that sometimes losing everything is the first step to finding yourself.